What if I told you that England's modern identity, from religion to royal power, was born from one family's ruthless ambition? Welcome to my channel. And today we are counting down how the Tudors changed England forever. Henry VIII wins the Wars of the Roses at Bosworth and establishes a strong centralized monarchy. In 1485, the last thing England expected was a new dynasty. For decades, the Wars of the Roses had pitted noble families against each other in a war of attrition. But when King Edward IV died unexpectedly, his brother Richard took the throne. Soon after, though, he faced a rebellion led by Henry Tudor, Earl of Richmond. At first glance, Henry had no chance. Henry VIII breaks with Rome and creates the Church of England. Henry VII died in 1509, and his son, Henry VIII, took the throne. Like his father, Henry was energetic, intelligent, and ambitious, quickly establishing his dominance over England. But he turned his sights on the Catholic Church, which controlled vast amounts of land and wealth. And it wasn't long before he made a name for himself as a champion of reform. See, Henry wanted to annul his marriage to Catherine of Aragon, who hadn't given him a male heir. But the Pope wouldn't grant him a divorce. So in 1534, Henry broke with Rome and established the Church of England, seizing monasteries and other church property and redistributing the wealth among nobles and commoners. This not only made him very popular with the people, but also laid the foundations for a powerful state free from papal influence. And speaking of Henry's marriages, let's talk about those. Henry VIII is perhaps best known for his 6 wives, one of whom would become the Virgin Queen. Henry's quest for a male heir led him to seek multiple marriages, each more controversial than the last. His first 2 wives, Catherine of Aragon and Anne Boleyn, failed to produce a son and were eventually executed. But it was his 3rd wife, Jane Seymour, who finally gave him the heir he so desperately wanted. Unfortunately, she died shortly after childbirth. But Henry was overjoyed to have a son and heir, the future King Edward VI. But there was a problem. You see, Henry still wasn't done having wives. He married Anne of Cleves, but quickly grew tired of her and sent her away. Then he married Catherine Howard, who was executed for adultery. Finally, Henry married Catherine Parr, who outlived him and ensured that Henry's children would come to power. All this marital chaos didn't just lead to some very unfortunate outcomes for the women involved, but it also resulted in major shifts in laws governing marriage and royal authority. Enter Elizabeth I, the Virgin Queen. When Henry VIII died in 1547, his will established a regency until his young son Edward could take the throne. But it didn't account for what would happen if Edward died before reaching adulthood, and that's exactly what happened. After Edward's death, his half-sister Mary Tudor took the throne. During her reign, she tried to restore Catholicism as the dominant religion in England and faced constant rebellions from Protestants. Meanwhile, her half-sister Elizabeth was seen as a potential rival to Mary's claim to the throne, because Elizabeth was the daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, a marriage that Mary saw as illegitimate. As a result, Elizabeth spent years in confinement. But in 1558, Mary died childless, paving the way for Elizabeth to ascend to the throne. She wasted no time in asserting her authority, breaking with Rome and re-establishing the Church of England. However, Elizabeth skillfully navigated the religious tensions of the time by presenting herself as a Protestant queen. But she did little to advance the cause of Protestantism, and instead emphasized her commitment to preserving peace and order within her realm. Her foreign policy was equally cautious, maintaining good relations with both Catholic Spain and France while bolstering England's defenses. Elizabeth's advisors understood the importance of projecting an image of strength and encouraged her to accept the title of glorious and most victorious. Elizabeth I, by the grace of God of England, Ireland, and France, Queen Defender of the Faith. That nickname came from her staunchly Catholic mother, who hoped that her daughter would restore Catholicism in England. Elizabeth shrewdly used it to highlight her role as a bulwark against the threat of popery. Later, she would be called the Virgin Queen, even though she likely had lovers, as she never married. That title helped solidify her image as a symbol of Protestantism. In 1564, Elizabeth helped establish the College of William and Mary in Virginia in North America. It was named after her and her father's mother, and it remains one of the oldest universities in the United States. But Elizabeth's most significant accomplishment was her role in establishing England's identity as a great maritime power. She presided over a golden age in English history, marked by economic prosperity, cultural flourishing, and military victories. Perhaps her greatest triumph was the defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588, a pivotal moment that established England's naval supremacy and thwarted Spain's attempt to invade the country. Her reign also saw the beginnings of England's colonial empire. Explorers like Sir Francis Drake and Sir Walter Raleigh established settlements in North America and the Caribbean. Overall, Elizabeth's legacy is a complex one, marked by both achievements and controversies. However, her impact on English culture and history is undeniable. Elizabeth changes England forever. Elizabeth I may have been the last Tudor monarch, but her impact on England's cultural landscape was profound. During her reign, English drama flourished, giving rise to some of the greatest writers of all time, including William Shakespeare. But Elizabeth also played a key role in shaping England's national identity. She was the first English monarch to use the title Queen of England, rather than Queen of France, as previous monarchs had done, and she was the first to use a portrait on coins. She commissioned an elaborate coronation ceremony and helped establish a new style of royal dress. But perhaps most significantly, Elizabeth oversaw the construction of a series of buildings that came to be known as the Armada of Architecture. These included the first purpose-built theater, which opened in 1574, as well as numerous schools, hospitals, and other public works. But despite her many accomplishments, Elizabeth's legacy is often overshadowed by the tumultuous events of her early life and the controversies surrounding her decision to remain unmarried. Nevertheless, her impact on English culture and history is undeniable. Henry VIII shapes the future monarchy. Henry VIII's impact on the future of England's monarchy was profound. He established a pattern of absolute but charismatic monarchy that would influence the course of English history for centuries. Henry's approach to governance combined the divine right of kings with a populist appeal to the common people, a strategy that would be adopted by his successors, including Elizabeth I. His 6 marriages, while scandalous by today's standards, also served to create a sense of royal drama that captured the public imagination. This was further enhanced by the establishment of the Church of England, which placed the monarch at the head of both the religious and political establishment. But perhaps most importantly, Henry's break with Rome and the subsequent dissolution of the monasteries stripped away much of the wealth and power of the English nobility, creating a more centralized state in which the monarch had greater power. While his successors would build on this foundation, it was Henry who truly transformed the nature of the English monarchy, setting the stage for the rise of England as a global power. From religion to royal power, the Tudors reshaped England. The Tudors were more than just monarchs. They were architects of change. They built a stronger, more centralized state, formed the religious landscape, and cultivated a distinctive national identity. They set the stage for England's rise to prominence on the world stage. The question is, how many modern nations owe their identity to a single dynasty's ambition? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.